Grizzly. At Grizzly, we believe charging your electric vehicle should be simple, reliable, and affordable. That's why we design, engineer, and build our chargers in Canada, ensuring top-tier quality and performance. Powered by United Chargers, every Grizzly model is crafted in-house, built to withstand extreme conditions, and tested for reliability. Recognized by leading publications for its performance and value, Grizzly delivers both durability and intelligence with heavy-duty aluminum enclosures, premium output cables, and smart charging features like scheduling, usage tracking, and OCPP compatibility with multiple charging apps. Grizzly. Simple, reliable, affordable, built for every climate, every EV, everywhere you go. Visit grizzly.com to learn more.
Hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. Friday, October 10th, 2025, episode 109. Today, a new Chevy Bolt, a cheaper, more affordable Model 3 and Model Y, and the EV scene in Bogota, and of course, much, much more. I'm your host, Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast. Today is the Hodder File. Look it up. Mr. Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have Dominic Yoni, longtime EV journalist and host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic. Thank you for tuning in to the show today. We'll kick it off with the big bit of news. It's back. We want to hear what everyone's been doing in Tom's travels, but this is big news because the cheapest electric vehicle in the United States is back. The 2027 Chevy Bolt, the new 210 horsepower, bigger EPA range than it had, 150 kilowatt DC fast charging, a safer LFP battery pack, NACS supercharger access, big screens, Google based, 20 advanced features, vehicle to home, and it starts at under $30,000. Let's get into it. A bit of context. In December 2023, Chevrolet shut down production of their most affordable car, the Bolt. Well, two cars, the Bolt EV and the EUV. Now, 2 years later, it's back. No suffix anymore. No EUV. It's simply just the Chevy Bolt. And it comes in one size. The larger EUV size. The other big change, as I mentioned, LFP, lithium iron phosphate. That's the chemistry of the battery pack. It's cheaper and it's advancing pretty quickly, this technology. And so, for many reasons, better than the NMC, nickel, manganese, cobalt chemistry found in the original Bolt. The new battery is same size, 65 kilowatt hours. The mileage, a little bit more, 255 miles EPA. The charging is the big one, though. It'll charge at 150 kilowatts plus. It's all about the curve, but they say 26 minutes, 10 to 80. That's great for road tripping. AC at 11.5. It's got native J3400 or NACS and the Tesla connector, if you like. And it starts at an MSRP of $28,995, including $1,400 destination freight charge. Let's get straight into it. Tom, you are our GM aficionado. What do you make of the new Bolts?
Well, it's pretty much what I think we expected, right? I mean, I think it's what most of us expected. We talked about it here. I'm fine with this. I actually am happy with it. We talked a lot. I know people disagreed with me, and I basically said this on this podcast a few months ago that to me, like improving the styling and updating, say, the vehicle, it was really secondary. Like the Bolt, when it left and the Bolt EUV still looked kind of fresh. It wasn't an old aging design. They had already refreshed it. To me, the most important thing was cost. They had to do whatever they could to keep it as affordable as possible. And if that meant, reusing most of the old body parts and stampings that they had, that's great. That's fine. I'm totally fine with that. I also heard some, I know some people have complained about range and said, cars should have to, the range should always start with a minimum of 3. I disagree with that. I also think because that you can't make an entry level affordable car do everything for everybody. There's going to be some people that for 255 miles, say EPA isn't enough for them. Okay, then it's not enough for you. But keeping it affordable, and I think by keeping the size of the battery down to where they are, I think, makes a lot of sense. And for most people, the 255 miles, especially if you can charge at home, it doesn't matter between 255 and say 310 or 320, something like that. Now it is an issue for people that can't charge at home, and those typically tend to be the people at the lower end of the price spectrum where this is marketed for. I get that, but it's it's a trade-off, and I always thought that affordability was going to be the most important part of this whole aspect. I think it's a great package at a great deal. I'd rather see it where it is now than $3,000 or $4,000 more with 50 more miles of range, personally.
I like that you said it looks similar to the old one. It's all the old stamping. Like it's the same. Yeah. And they were very open with that. They didn't even try and hide it. They said this gets the vehicle to market quicker. Mm-hmm. And there's so many bits of that vehicle which have been validated already. They said what's under the skin, though, over 50% of it is entirely different. Kind of the opposite of the way that Nissan did the second gen Leaf when they sharpened it up. The styling looked different, but the running gear was pretty much very similar. But this is the opposite. So it looks the same. And that's no bad thing. It's a good looking vehicle. I think the styling is still pretty fresh all these years later.
The face is different though, Martin. And the rear's a little different. The front end's definitely different. You could see it in that view.
To use all the same stamping and parts is very sensible. That's not a criticism. I mean, the internet will criticize and say it's not a new vehicle. It gets the vehicle to market quicker. I almost felt like it was a really big mid-cycle refresh because we've seen it from vehicles that have got a bigger battery pack, like Toyota have done it, and with the BZ4X and Subaru equivalent, it gets a bigger pack, it charges faster, it looks the same. It was almost like a beefy mid-cycle refresh, but they are billing it as the all new one. Dom, when does this actually go on sale to our listeners in the United States, and when can they actually get their hands on it?
So I think it comes to dealers early in 2026. It's they're calling it the 2027 Chevy Bolt, but it comes out early 2026. I think it should be 2026, but it's not that super important. What is kind of interesting though is that in a media briefing, Chevrolet says that the new Bolt will be a limited run model only. So I'm not sure what the hell that means. Like there's an article.
They also said that they weren't production constrained. So decipher that one, Dom.
They weren't production constrained. Okay. I mean, well,
but I heard the same. They said limited run, but we're not production constrained. Like, all right, okay.
So those two things kind of make sense together. I don't know, but I think they have like a winner here. This is great. Like, you can see it on the screen here if you're watching this on YouTube. The thing looks great. I like the refresh. I think the face is better than the previous, like more squinty looking one, and the interior looks really great. A little while ago we could see the inside. Maybe start this thing up again.
Big upgrade on the interior.
Yeah, the interior is like so much nicer, and it's like that screen is great, and it's got lots of features now. So like you said, 50% of this car is new, so it's got a different like a power module, like a motor and inverter. So it's got what they call the X76 or something. What is that? X76 electric drivetrain with a 65 kilowatt hour battery. It's got like new brake modules, global B electrical architecture. Well, the X76. That's also this. I think they said it's like the 10th Chevrolet or GM product that this powertrain's got into. So this is not like it's kind of off the shelf. It's like a low cost kind of thing for them to put in there because I guess the scale of having it in all those other vehicles kind of helps keep the cost down low. But yeah, everything under $30,000, and I like too that the MSRP that they're quoting has the destination charges all folded in there. So you look at the price, that is the price basically, right? So. Yeah, so it's less. This is less than the starting price for the Nissan Leaf, which I think is like really the big competitor to the this new Chevy Bolt.
Yeah, it's close, but it's less.
Right, it's really close, and there's some trade-offs here and there on the features. I think the Leaf might have the Leaf has like almost 50 miles more range, right? And yeah, so there's some trade-offs back. I don't know which I would choose. I'd be kind of curious to see what the audience would say about that. Nissan Leaf or Chevy Bolt is kind of like our low-cost champions, right?
Yeah. So LT, is that launch trim? Is that what it stands for? Or is that what's the LT naming convention?
That's just
That's like the
traditional
lowest trim.
Chevy.
Oh, low trim. Okay. Okay.
I don't know if I don't know if it means low trim, but it is
probably not.
Trim.
They
Yeah,
never
I
say.
don't think so.
They never say like the
Yeah.
pauper beggar spec. This is the 29,990, including destination Bolt LT. So I see NB Volks in the comments, and I can't find the comment now, but said all of that limited run thing means that it's you have to specially order it. So what they won't do is put a bunch of them on dealer lots. There you go. Which makes sense for the launch trim, right? So if you want it, go and order it. That makes sense. They're not production constrained, but it'll be a limited run. So I guess when everyone who wants a launch trim has put their money down and ordered it, when they work through the list, they've gone through the list. That's really smart, because then you haven't got a bunch of them sitting there. That makes perfect sense.
And the first one that comes out is the RS. Trim.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Oh, so that's a sporty trim. So glossy black wheels, roof rails, and a different color combo as well. The atomic yellow exterior paint with the red stitching. So that comes first, does it?
Yeah, and it's going to be more. It's not going to be the 28 or 29. I think the first one that comes out is like 32. Correct me?
Right.
Correct?
I mean, I didn't see. I couldn't find the prices for the RS in the press release.
You can't get the cheap one initially. The least expensive one, I should say.
They don't give performance numbers either. Like the 0 to 60, they give like charging performance, which is great. Charging is so much better. This is like a road tripper now, but like talking about the interior. So this is the interior of the RS. So you can see the red stitching here on the seats. But check out the screen, man. I just like I'm really jazzed about this screen and the seats. I mean, the whole thing, it just looks great.
It's similar to the other Ultium screens, looks like my Equinox, and it's not exactly the same, but the layout is going to be all the same once you use it. I mean, I've been in the Cadillac, IQ, and the Sierra Denali and the Silverado, and they all function just about the same. There's small differences, but it's going to be pretty much the same as that.
Looks good. And that native NACS. Yeah, that's really important, I think, to make it a truly future-proofed vehicle. It would be embarrassing if it didn't have it, I think.
I think every new vehicle now, like a new model that comes out, I think from every automaker now in the US is going to have NACS on it, the new vehicles. And I honestly think, and there wasn't a lot of discussion about this, but I think there was an agreement with Tesla that after a certain point, new models introduced would have to have NACS. And I think 2026 was that linchpin point where now they have to start with coming out with it.
That would be fascinating. I'm
not
surprised.
A refresh model, but a new model.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not more discussion around the deal that was done.
I talked with somebody from, I forget what OEM, and I asked them, is it going to have NACS? And their answer was like, well, it has to because it's after a certain date. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So like, I'm pretty sure they had some sort of agreement with Tesla where completely new models that come out, and this would qualify as a new model because there has not been a Bolt now for a while. Like it had to have it. So.
I did myself a little spreadsheet. I don't know if I can share it on screen, Dom, or not. It might not look very pretty actually, but I did myself just a little comparison table. I'll see if I can share it, and it might be mildly interesting for somebody. So if I do that and show my screen and then and share it, just having a look at both of the specs of the vehicles, of the Leaf and the Bolt. They're really, really similar. It's also asking me if I want to close the browser. No, that would be a really bad idea. No, that would be bad. Okay, I can't share it at the moment, but I'll mention it. It's actually, maybe I could save the file as a thing. They're so similar in terms of the specs, the new Leaf, but one of the things that I think wasn't always picked up on, I don't know, was that the the Leaf comes with a bigger battery or smaller battery, and that kind of divides it a little bit. And so it's not actually really obvious that you could compare the two, because the Leaf with the bigger battery is about $4 or $5 more expensive. And so it's almost unfair to compare, because what people have done is they've taken the base price of the Nissan Leaf, because it is going to be a cheap vehicle in the US. But I suspect that price was for the smaller battery. The big battery, 75 kilowatt hours. I think that's a $34,000 car, which again, is not much more than the RS spec, you could argue. But yeah, I think you got
more range. You get like the 50 miles or whatever more range with the Leaf, but it's a 10 kilowatt hour bigger battery.
Yeah, but for a lot more money though. So I'm like, I'm kind of not sure. Like, is that? So
I mean, I'm leaning Bolt Leaf, but I'd love to like go to Kyle's track and like sit in both of them, take them around, and spend some time and back and forth in both, and just kind of see, how they compare, because this is really there's going to be a lot of cross shopping here with these two cars.
Oh, hey, that might has that shown up for you?
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so Bolt on the left and Leaf Launch Edition on the right hand side, big battery. So motor power exactly the same, 210 versus 214. Battery capacity 10 kilowatt hours lower on the Bolt, but is cheaper. 255 miles versus 3A3. I mean, that's only really a big deal if you look at the headline prices. Charging speed's the same. Both come native NACS. Self-driving Super Cruise versus Pro Pilot Assist. Infotainment screen. I guess the thing about GM, at least Chevy vehicles, is there's not going to be Apple CarPlay, but they do Google built in. I use it every day in my car. Honestly, it works really well. So I wouldn't even worry about that. That just the Google built-in system's fantastic.
Yeah,
I never plug my phone in.
I think it gets CarPlay and Android Auto.
Does it? Interesting. I thought it didn't. My apologies. My
Bolt?
apologies.
Let me double check on that. So,
I wouldn't have thought that.
Doesn't.
I would not think GM would do that on.
No, the new GM Ultimate vehicles have the Google native Google.
Right.
You don't have Android Auto or Google.
Right. I'm
Space-wise,
I don't know what I'm thinking about.
Space-wise, Nissan Leaf wins, but wheelbase, I mean, exactly the same. And then length, the Leaf is 10 centimeters longer.
Yeah.
A couple of inches long, 3 inches longer, 4 inches longer, but that's just boot space, right? So they're so similar. It just I think this comes down to, I had this conversation with one of my listeners on my podcast this week, on the chat, on the Patreon chat that I have for my paid subscribers. And I just think it comes down to monthly prices. I think you come to buy these two vehicles and no one walks into a dealership with 30 grand in used notes. I think it comes down to what's the offer today on that day in history at that dealer that could sway you. It's about the monthly price, right? And so they're so similar to compare.
And brand loyalty too. There's a lot of people aren't going to cross shop these. There's plenty of Nissan customers that would never consider a GM vehicle, and vice versa. So there's plenty of room in the sandbox for these two vehicles, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It'd be nice to have a few more like in the same kind of price range as well. There's not really much down there, right? The Equinox starts at 35, I think.
Yeah.
Basically, which is still a pretty great price for that package, but man, I think this is like a lot of car for that money.
No, I agree.
And 255 miles of range is not bad. I mean, you'll never feel like it's not enough range unless you're road tripping, like. But it's not that much, When I drive my Model 3, I don't drive 250 miles between chargers. Usually it's closer to 200. So.
And so many people never road trip. I mean, I think we harp on that more than what we need to, but because we want the vehicles to be capable to do everything. But such a big swath of the population, that does not matter. Like, it really doesn't. They almost never drive more than 200 or 250 miles in a day. And now that the Bolt can charge so much faster, DC fast charge. I mean, it was pathetic, the previous version. Bolt, was stuck in 2015 charging speeds and with 50 kilowatt, and it didn't even hold that long. Now it'll go 10 to 80% in like 27, 28 minutes. That's fine if you need to make a quick stop if you are going faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brandon Flash brings up a good thing, which I mentioned earlier about, people that can't charge at home. the faster charging speed makes a big difference for people that can't charge at home, where they are going to the chargers once a week or whatever and filling up, like the gasoline model, where they don't trickle charge every night like a lot of us do. They drive down till it's 25%, like you did with gas when your gas gauge was low, and then they went somewhere, filled up, and then lived for the next week. It's interesting how so many other people that own EVs, like many of us, we've broken from that mold because we can charge at home. We don't wait till the car's 10% and then fill it. Well, most people don't. You just kind of opportune. Whenever you feel like grabbing that connector and plugging it in, you do. But apartment dwellers and people that don't have the ability to charge at home still are kind of forced into the same model of charging as we lived with liquid fuel, where you drive it down to a certain point where you feel uncomfortable, and then you go somewhere and you refuel. And that faster charging speed on the new Bolt is going to make a huge difference for those people, because the first Bolt was just, I mean, it was great when it first came out, the Bolt, but towards the end, with 50 kilowatts, when other vehicles were pulling 300 kilowatt, it just wasn't, you could tell GM knew they weren't going to be selling it anymore, so they weren't going to put any money into making it better.
What do you think of Jim's point here? I love my Bolt. We showed the comment on screen a moment ago, really considering the new one. Given that a lot of people might have bought the original Bolt or the EUV based on price, based on they didn't want anything more premium or couldn't get anything more premium, a lot of those people are going to be on finance agreements or leases that are ending, well, next year. Do you think there's a captive audience here of existing Bolt owners who like the vehicle? It looks like the one they've got. A lot of people like what they like and like what they know, and will be getting, some marketing mail or an email in the post from GM saying, hey, we've got a new one. There could be a real upgrade path here just from existing owners.
That's a good point. It's been 2 years since it came out, right? So, and leases are often 2 years in length. So I'm not sure.
3 year most leases are, but they have the 24-month leases.
Right. But even if it's 3 years, there's plenty of leaf owners I've met some like there's a lady had an EUV owner. I met her at a meet, and man, she loved that car like a lot. Like it was pretty amazing. So and so I think this is like that, only better. I think it's like better looking. Inside everything's better. It's just but the price is still like very reasonable. This is so much more money for just so much more car for just like a little bit more money than what the Bolt was selling for before. 26.5, I think, was the price before 2 years ago.
Almost 27. Yeah.
But that, and it was okay, but this is like just way, I think, nicer, and people should be pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people are asking about the limited run. I don't want to make people fear that they're going to stop selling it. I'm pretty sure that was just this launch edition is going to be a limited run. I don't think they meant the Bolt itself limited run and then they were going to stop selling it. So, don't worry about that. GM isn't bringing it back, for 8 months and then they're going to stop making them.
I think this is a really fascinating time for GM with, they're well and truly number 2 in the US market now behind Tesla. Tesla's market share is falling inevitably. I'm not bashing Tesla, but there's more and more vehicles on the road, and they've had a great Q3 in the United States by the look of it, because Tesla is down a lot in Europe. They had a better September in China. Data out today. Tesla was up a little bit in China in September, but otherwise they're down on the first 9 months of the year. So those good figures that we saw from Tesla recently, all US, North America. And so, but their market share is still dropping, and GM is well and truly cemented now in that number 2 position. I think they're in a really good place to move forward with this now and advertise vehicles like this, which do a job, serve a purpose. I'll show you something that's on screen for me. I don't know if I can show that to you again, and I'll pop that up on screen while I'm talking about it. Like the point of vehicles doing a job. Hey, there we go. Add to image. There we go. Right. So this is Auto Trader in the UK. Let me just make sure I'm looking at new vehicles. Dacia. So Dacia is the Romanian bit of Renault. So the bits are all Renault bits, but it's the Dacia brand. I think they're moving some production to Morocco, or have moved production to Morocco. Let me make sure that I'm only doing cars up to 100 miles. So, right. So look, and here we have a brand new. Okay. So this vehicle is the Dacia Spring. Wow. It's 9995. It's a brand new car. and it's 9,995. It's a
Wow.
26.8 kilowatt hour pack.
Mm.
Admittedly, it's in a shade of brown that either reminds me of something that I cleaned up from the nappy of my baby or a 1970s sofa. But still, if you don't mind that shade, then look, it's a 10 grand car. And but the point is, it's a brand new car. Now, yeah, okay. So you can absolutely, let me go back to that page with the price on. Look, you can absolutely make the argument of, at that price, should you spend a little bit more and get there's a higher trim on this for a few £100 more. I think it's called the Extreme trim, which always makes me laugh because there's nothing extreme about the
Right.
Dacia Spring. It takes 20 seconds to 60 miles an hour. And after that, it doesn't really go much faster, but it's a car, not a quadricycle. It's a car. And there's an argument that actually for 11 grand, should you get a slightly used Funky Cat, Great Wall Motor, GWM, released the Cat, which they've now called 03, I think. That has had mega depreciation. It's a low 30s thousands car, and they're only a couple of years old now. And you can get one of those for about 11, maybe 10 and a half. And that's got heated and ventilated seats, or at least heated seats, electric heated seats. It's got a big screen, lovely software. It's a much bigger vehicle. It's probably a B segment, not much bigger than this. But you could make that argument. But let's talk about new cars on sale. Look, this thing, if you want a second car in your driveway, if you're a single person or a young family, if you're a nurse that needs to get to the hospital at awkward hours of the day and you want safe, reliable transport, let's talk about what cars do. And so I have seen that feedback. The internet did the internet, and we're like, 255 miles on the new Bolt. It needs to be more. I completely disagree. I mean, I wouldn't mind the Bolt being cheaper, but it's going to get cheaper as time goes on. And also, if there is their upgrade path from existing Bolt owners who are brand loyal, then go look at the used market in 6 months' time, and you're going to find some really great used Bolts, admittedly the old one. But if you don't need, like that Dacia Spring, DC charges at 30 kilowatts. And what we don't have over here, because Europe is smaller and we're all on top of each other because it's a bit more historical, we need cars like this to get around tight cities and whatnot. We don't have that kind of commentary of, the battery's too small, because we'll go buy a big battery EV then. But I do sense from some of the US feedback this week on the internet was there is still a little bit more your side of the Atlantic of, we need cars with more range. And so I'd like to get past that possibly in 2026.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we won't get past it here for any time soon.
That's a pretty amazing. I couldn't believe that's like BYD Seagull in China kind of pricing, right? Mm-hmm. That's like, but it's like, I don't know if I could handle 0 to 60 in 20 seconds.
Sure, you could. You drove cars in the 70s, cars from the 70s.
True, yeah, but even those weren't that slow.
You've gotten spoiled. It were close to it. I mean,
Man,
geez.
like 15 seconds, yeah. I remember 15 seconds, 0 to 60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
so it's
I drove a 78 Plymouth Volare. I doubt if it went 0 to 60 in under 20 seconds.
I drove one of those.
With the slant 6.
Right?
Love it.
I drove so many. My dad had, it's just a sidetrack here for a second. My dad had like a Plymouth Fury, huge Plymouth for a taxi, right? And with a slant 6 in it. So 225 cubic inches and maybe like 85 horsepower. And it's like this huge car. It was so slow. There's your 20-second. Mm-hmm. That's true. That's probably like a 20-second car, 0 to 60.
What have I forgotten to mention on the Bolt? 20 safety features. Other latest safety stuff. Some of it is mandated that has new cars have to come with now. But either way,
silicone carbide inverter. That's something. Like that's probably where they get that extra gained efficiency, like the little bit extra range. It's kind of a big deal,
360 camera made at GM's Fairfax assembly plant in Kansas City, moving from the Orion plant. 17-inch wheels are standard, and some nice color choices.
GM home bidirectional charging.
Oh, so Tom, this is right in your wheelhouse. Okay, vehicle to home, bidirectional, when paired with the GM Energy home system, GM Energy Power Shift Charger, and GM Energy V2H enablement kit. Catchy. It could provide power if properly equipped to your property in an outage. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, all of the new Ultium vehicles have that option.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing that you can get at Silverado on Lyric, and that's just part of the Ultium, package. And talking about that, GM reached out to me like 3 months ago to do a collab on that, and I've reached back to like let's set this up, and now it's crickets. Now I haven't heard anything back from them, and they're the ones that originally reached out to me and said, we should do something on this and tell this story. So if anyone from GM's listening, I'm still willing to do an in-depth video on the vehicle to home system you have. Let's get it done. I have followers asking for it. Yeah, I got my hoodie.
That's true. You got a state of charge hoodie? I don't.
Yeah, I started selling the stuff on YouTube. You could have clothing or whatever. So I wanted to order one of everything just to see how it looked and felt. I didn't want something being sold that was like garbage. You know what I mean? So I ordered the T-shirt, the hoodie, and coffee cup and everything. Before I put it on the site, I wanted to feel it and make sure it was okay. And it's pretty good stuff. So
sweet. It's okay. And so if I did want a state of charge hoodie, I can just go to your YouTube page and order.
Yeah, you see it on. You can click on. It shows pictures of like shirts, and people have ordered them already. I'm surprised.
Sweet.
So
I guess we should probably do that here as well, right? get our act together.
Yeah, there's a hat too, but for some reason it's not showing up on my channel. So I have to go into the settings and figure out why that thing's not visible. Okay, Martin's got his hoodie on now too. So
yeah, he's throwing gang signs.
That's just how I roll in Dorset, UK. By the way,
Dorset.
That's how I roll. So cool. I didn't remember. Hey, you joke about Ultium, or you mentioned Ultium. I'm not sure I heard that word used. I didn't watch any presentations. I just read all the materials. Not sure I saw the word Ultium being used, but I'm not sure that word is being used unless it's an LG.
Yeah, no, they dropped it. Like
partnership, and the LFP pack won't be LG, will it? I don't know. So, on Kyle's video as well. Kyle did 2 brilliant videos this week on the affordable Teslas. Don't argue with me on the word affordable. That's just what they're being billed as. You can decide whether 40K is affordable. Your situation will decide that. We'll get onto them in a minute on the podcast. But like Kyle made a brilliant video, like 40 minutes long, and get under the skin of the car, and then all the comments are like, the dude's wearing a hoodie at 93 degrees. I'm like, is that all you've got to say?
Yeah. And talking about the low cost Teslas, I hate to mention this, but I mean, sometimes the Tesla, the musketeers, we'll call them, are just nuts. I mean, today on Twitter, I'm reading comments that people are posting about the Bolt and being like, how could anybody buy this? Because for $7,000 more, you can get the new Model Y or whatever, and I'm like really, like I know brand loyalty, and I go back to the Mustang and Camaro days where it was just you wanted to have like gang wars, like if you were in the Mustang camp or the Camaro camp, but like really there are vehicles outside of the Tesla sphere. Tesla makes awesome vehicles. I love Tesla vehicles. They're great vehicles, but there are you can buy another car, and it's not like sacrilegious, that. And the other cars are pretty damn good too. But like the comments about how would anybody buy, when only $7,000 more? That's, I don't even know what percentage of $30,000 or $28,000 is $7,000. That's a big percentage more. The whole point of these cars, we're not talking about a car that's $105,000 and $112,000. Okay, that for most people makes no difference. But $28,000 to $36,000 or $30,000, whatever, yes, that's a huge difference in money. And it's just like, God, can everything doesn't have to be about Tesla. Every time a new EV comes out, you don't have to say, why would anybody buy this when you could buy a Tesla? Please,
No,
they make great cars, but it's like it's maddening.
I saw the same with people saying, don't buy the Bolt, just buy a year-old Tesla that's depreciated. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's not comparing like for like. It's a used car. It's not a new car. So I get it. I understand it. But those people were pretty quiet this week when those Teslas came out. Before we get on to those vehicles, I mentioned that while the federal tax credit may have gone, some states still have big local rebates and incentives. Colorado, for instance, $9,000 in Colorado for middle and low income families. And you've also, I think, on the Colorado scheme, got to have a 12-year-old or older combustion car that you've owned for a period of time. So you can't just go and get one and get the rebate straight away. For a period of time, you've got to trade that in. Either way, look, that makes the Bolt a $19,995 vehicle. There's also big rebates in Maine and Massachusetts, and lots of places are trying to, California quite famously said, well, if there's no federal tax credit, maybe we'll do 7.5. And then last week very quickly went, oh, no, we're not doing that. It's expensive. But they've got California is spending a lot on infrastructure and charging in lower income areas and things like that. So they are doing a lot there. But yeah, those state incentives are definitely able to make this vehicle a lot cheaper. All right. We've mentioned Tesla. Let's get into it. Our second big story this week was the new affordable models from Tesla. I think it was clear a year ago we weren't going to get a Model B, a Model Q, as Tom says, the Musketeers, even until recently. We're talking about the 25,000 Model A, all those kind of things. It was never going to be that. If you've been listening to the earnings calls recently, the language has very much shifted to cheaper versions of our existing cars, and yet still they refused to accept that reality. Well, this week we finally got that confirmation, but a nice surprise. Standard is the new way of calling it. So not standard range, but standard. Model 3, you're looking at on screen for our viewers, our listeners watching on screen. Model 3 was the surprise. And actually, it's a really good deal. Not wildly different from the outgoing Model 3. It's got the nice glass roof. It's not outgoing, I shouldn't say that, but it means that the existing ones become the premium trim. So, new Model 3, new Model Y, the federal tax credit ended, $7,500 off Teslas. So, even though these cars are cheaper, if you buy one today, and there's an argument from many on the internet you shouldn't, that you're still paying more than you could have got a much better car 2 weeks ago for. But either way, this is a hump. We'll get over it as time passes. So new 3, new Y, they're called standard. Everything above it's called premium. This is about a lower entry price, but like I say, it's not a lower entry price of these vehicles. It's a huge amount to get into. So it's $36,990. We're looking at Model 3 still on screen. Yeah, $36,990 plus order fee, which is non-negotiable, plus destination, non-negotiable. It's $38,630. So I saw a lot of people saying, why, it's so much under 40 grand. Well, yeah, but not a lot under 40 grand. $38,630. And, for those of us that can remember things like SR pluses and Tesla's at SR Plus was $36,990, and that was a very, very good car. The thing that gets forgotten, I think, about in a lot of the criticism of Tesla this week, and I'll stop and you guys can take the floor. I think the thing that gets forgotten a lot is that to make a car now, compared to when the SR Plus was out 4 or 5 years ago, inflation has been crazy for the car industry, and it costs so much more to make a car now than it did not so long ago. So actually, 38 grand Model 3 is a pretty good deal. New colors, some stuff stripped out. We can get into all the details, but let's get some reaction first of all. Tom, when you saw these cars released, what did you think?
So initially, I thought it was a good deal. But I was traveling a lot, so I wasn't reading all the details. I was just looking at price and everything. But when I found out that you can't, and Kyle just chimed in on this, that you can't get autopilot in it, not even the basic autopilot. That's like, I don't understand that. It's just, I mean, I guess I understand it. It's to force you to buy FSD and to push the price up higher. So I don't like that. I don't like that because there's really I don't believe there's any reason why they can't put it in there. It's literally just to force you. If you want any type of ADAS, you have to give us the real money. And now, you're looking at $45,000. And now all of a sudden the bloom is off the rose. So I don't know. I like that there's a lower cost option, but there should be able to have basic autopilot. A lot of people don't want or need FSD, but they'd like to have basic auto, the regular autopilot, just a regular ADAS system for highway driving. They don't need point A to point B nav, turn by turn navigation, but they want the autopilot, and that's just taken out of this. I mean, you can get Super Cruise, on the new Bolt and get the FSD, but it's really expensive. So you're lowering the price, but then you're saying, well, if you really want the car to do what it's known for, now all of a sudden it's not a great price. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree. So it comes with traffic-aware cruise control, but not lane centering. Which, when I first saw it, that it didn't come with autopilot, I was like, oh, that's okay. So as long as it still stays in the lane and it'll keep up with traffic and slow down. No, there's no lane centering. That's a really obvious move. I think that's Tesla's marketing department, or the department that works on the upsells. For $99 a month, get full self-driving, and then you can get the good. It comes with the hardware needed. They've just turned it off, which seems very Scrooge-like.
Turned which off? Sorry.
As in the autopilot function.
I'm going to check out for a sec, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so it comes with everything it needs for FSD. They've just decided to turn off autopilot to force you into spending $99 a month for FSD and subscribe to it, which seems mean-spirited, but I totally understand if there's pressure to at least try that model. They may reverse course in 6 months' time on it.
Right. So, yeah, true. Like Tesla will change things up if they think the product's not quite hitting where it ought to, but they stripped like a lot of stuff out of this car. Like it doesn't even have like automatic mirror adjustments. You have to manually adjust the mirrors. No other car, even like the cheapest Mitsubishi Mirage or whatever, doesn't have manual. I think the Ford Maverick which is not quite the same class as vehicle since it's a pickup truck, that has manual mirrors on like the cheapest trim. But yeah, there's a whole lot stripped out of here. But at least in the Tesla Model 3, has a glass roof on the outside and the inside. The Tesla Model Y, they have a glass roof, but they put the whole headliner covering it. So I'm not sure how that saves any money really. But
the roof thing, all right, I'll chime in on the roof thing. It's confusing because they've kept the glass roof for obvious reasons. That is either a supplier reason. They said, it's really difficult to re-engineer a tin roof. BS. Like, that's the thing that Tesla's good at, is engineering. There's nothing more efficient at this price point in a mainstream market than driving a Tesla. Like, they are really good at engineering. I don't care about robots and robo taxis and stuff, but Tesla's EVs are brilliant. And we'd have had to work late on Friday to put a tin roof on it. That's BS. Like, that's just a lie. So they shouldn't say that. So they've kept the glass roof in for a reason. It's either going to be having to go through all the safety testing again, which maybe they didn't want to, I don't know, or maybe it's a supplier deal or something. So they've kept the pano roof on the Model Y and then just covered it over with a headliner inside. Not like one that you can just peel off sneakily. It is more fitted and better. In all the pictures online of the Model Y, they've, on the design studio here, they don't even show it because they're embarrassed about it. And it's the most annoying thing because this is just Tesla losing its way. This is what they're good at. They're good at EV engineering. Just put a metal roof on the thing and save a ton of money. Keeping the roof, and people have gone on the internet, they've not put the laminated features on the glass roof, and therefore they're saving money on the laminates. I don't believe any of that because that's just that's Reddit. Okay, Tesla haven't said that.
It's a speculation. Yeah,
I suspect it's exactly the same piece of glass, only with a headliner because a pano roof is premium, but it comes on the Model 3 standard, which I find enormously frustrating when Tesla cock up their engineering. It's just like, come on, this is a huge mistake. It's for a reason. It's for a reason, but I don't believe the reasons they gave.
So Kyle's in the comments, and he says, they told me it's cheaper to do glass than to switch to metal. Looks better as well on the outside. Annoying they covered it up, but it is a cheaper piece of glass. Okay, so
I don't believe them. I don't believe them. Then you've got to go to a new supplier or whoever.
They make their own glass, I believe, don't they?
Okay, so then you've got to make a new spec of glass.
Sure.
I don't believe it. There's plenty of cars with tin roofs. There's a ton of cars with tin roofs on. It's not hard. So I don't. There's a reason that they haven't told us. I don't care. I mean,
maybe there's a thing where once they put the make the sheet of glass, then it goes through the coating kind of department. Maybe they just don't have to do that step. And
that's all. Nah, we're doing gymnastics here to work it out.
True.
There's a reason they haven't told us. And they said, oh, it's cheaper. Nonsense. It's cheaper to put a metal roof on a car. Otherwise, all cars would come with pano roofs. So anyway, but if you say that they make their own glass, I didn't know they had glass factories. Or then maybe they've just got the ability to roll Brazilian. Maybe glass is cheaper than metal. And having a tin roof. So a quick one on Model 3. We'll move on. So Model 3 finishing off. The power, charging power reduced from 250 to 225 because the battery's smaller. I think it's a physically one module less. 7 speakers, which is down a lot. No sub. Cloth inserts in the seats. No physical seat controls. You've got to do it on the screen. This seems like pennies. This seems like, what's that? 25 cents? For a bit of...
Oh no, I think that's they're saving. Well, no,
it's the button, Dom. It's not the motor. True. It's not like a manual seat, which is also fine if you're the only person that drives that car. But like just taking the button away from the side of the seat is stupid. No AM FM radio, but the internet hated that this week. I spent 20 years in AM FM radio in my career, and I don't care that it hasn't got one.
Same.
Everyone streams, and it's got digital radio, which is fine. No rear touchscreen, fine. No frequency dependent shocks. Discuss. No ambient lighting, fine. And only the front seats are heated, fine. I don't like my kids enough to give them a nice screen and heated seats. So that's the 3. We'll finish off talking about the 3.
Yeah. So I want to mention that. So if you really want to do a deep dive into this, Kyle, who is in the comments with us today, he's got a video for the Tesla Model 3 and a separate one, lengthy, for the Tesla Model Y. He was invited down to Texas. I think it was Texas for the debut of this thing, and it's got good access there, and it's got all the info. So if you really want to do a deep dive, out of spec reviews, it's got like a good video content up there for you.
Oh, and Steelies, which is fine. Steel wheels.
18-inch Steelies. Mm-hmm.
Better than a bad alloy, if you ask me.
Right.
Because some of those alloy wheels can be super heavy, like the cheapo ones. And it's like, just put a good Steely on. Anyway, let's get into Model Y, and then we can finish off this. So glass roof, discussed, but covered. Weird. No front and rear light bars, which never made its way to the Model 3, so didn't have to do that. But they're gone on the Y. Again, traffic-aware cruise. But no autopilot, no lane centering, charging power again, 225 kilowatts. Oh, man, I get so frustrated. Like Tesla charging sucks anyway. It's the thing they need to fix. And then they're making it worse. No adaptive high beam. The front trunk is smaller. And again, cloth inserts on seats. No physical seat controls. No AM FM radio. No touchscreen in the back. No ambient lighting. Customizable ambient lighting. I saw online, they were like, yeah, it's still got footwell lights. That's not...
I mean, it's nice, though.
You're really grasping at straws now.
Yeah.
And
I mean, my car doesn't have ambient lighting, and people will live. I think they'll survive without it.
I think you'll be okay. But I mean, Tom, just like zooming out and trying to stack up where, Tesla is such a beacon in the EV industry. Tesla is so important to the EV industry. Like Tesla was such an innovator. And the only thing they've innovated on recently was the Cybertruck, which is brilliant. And it has a ton of stuff that no one really gives it credit for. It introduced Tesla's vehicle to home, 48-volt architecture, a lot of really revolutionary stuff in that. But no one wants to actually buy a Cybertruck, so the vehicle is unfortunately, a failure in terms of sales figures. And then the Model Y is a slightly bigger Model 3. It says the criticism. So the last thing they did was the Model 3. I kind of worry where Tesla is at the minute versus the innovation in China and even like the BMW iX3, 500 miles headline range, loads of innovation. And here's Tesla just taking stuff away. Why have they done this, Tom?
Yeah, it's just because what else are they going to do at this point? They don't have another car in the pipeline. The taxi that 2-seat taxi thing that they were going to sell to people, I guess, at some point. That's not coming anytime soon. And the sales were kind of flat for a little while. I know now disruption, we've had major disruptions with Tesla as far as people kind of turning on Musk with the political stuff he's been doing. And now with the tax credit going away, the rush of people to go and buy EVs. So it's hard to judge how people are viewing Tesla by its sales over this last year because so much has gone on. But looking at their models, what do they have that excites people? Now, the new Y was exciting. It was a refresh. I think it looks a lot better. But where's that next? Tesla always had, and here's what's next. And just, look at what we're doing now. But in next year, we have this. Here's what's next now with Tesla. So they had to try to do something to get people excited. I just wish, and we talked about this a lot, the Cybertruck probably sucked so much money out of the company. If they would have used that money to instead bring a sub $20,000 vehicle to market, I think they'd be in such better position now. That's what we should have had. I mean, the Cybertruck's a fun vehicle. I like the Cybertruck. I've driven it. I don't want one personally. I'd rather have a Lightning or even a Silverado or even a Rivian R1T, to be honest with you, than a Cybertruck. But it's a fun vehicle to drive. It does some things really great. I like the steer-by-wire. The rear wheel steering's fantastic. It's a type of vehicle that if you want to be noticed, that's what you drive. But just think if they would have taken the money that they poured into that and put it into, making like that small, 275 to 300 mile. I know Tesla's always said they got to be 300 miles. Well, they could have made it right at 300 miles EPA. They'd be in such better position now, but they didn't. And this is what they're trying to do to make affordable options, is just stripping down the cars. And, I'm concerned about where they're going at this point, car wise. And what do you think as far as like, what's the next exciting model? I mean,
it's not, well, it's right. It's
semi for me is the most exciting model.
Yeah.
But that's for the company, Dom, as far as like investors and so forth. I mean, for people, for retail customers, like what if you're, where is it? Is it just refining the cars they have? I mean, forget about S and X. That their sales are minuscule on those vehicles. Talking about, I mean, 3 and Y have become the company at this point. And even if they manage to bring the new second gen Roadster out, which who knows if they're ever going to make that. That's going to be such a niche product, for a handful of super rich people. At this point, they probably have to give away more of them than they'll sell because they have so many of the influencers that got free Roadsters by, their referral points and everything. Like, what do they do now? What's the next thing? Are they working on something that we don't know about? I don't think so.
Robots is the next thing. It's like they're going to, I don't know. How long can they stay in the car business with just refreshing this old stuff?
As you say, Robotaxi, that's been seen this week. Spy Shots testing around, but you can't go buy one of those. As Tom says, what can you go buy from Tesla that is really exciting at the moment? What is now? Look, under the skin of the Cybertruck, there's got some really good engineering on that. No one talks about steer-by-wire or, like I say, the 48-volt architecture and the ether loop and the way that they're constructing their vehicles. Those fascinating series of videos on the Jerry Rig Everything channel, right? So Zach basically bust it in two with a massive crane, and they glued it back together, and it's stronger than if it had been welded or whatever. So they're doing some really interesting things with manufacturing, but they don't get any credit so much for that because of the criticism as well. But from a mainstream point of view, that's where I get really frustrated now with Tesla. For so long, it was just like, that somebody would tweet Elon Musk and be like, hey, you should do this. And he'd reply, yeah, let's do it, right? And then within 6 months' time, you could point to that and he'd be like, oh, no, it's coming now. There was so much excitement. And like for so long, Tesla must have been a massive headache in the boardrooms of all the other car makers because somebody would suggest something or do whatever. Like, let's do something simple like, let's do dog mode, or let's do No, let's have cameras that just, you can put a USB or a card in the glove box and record everything. Like, those days weren't that long ago, and they were genuinely exciting. Now, admittedly, there was a lot of also froth around the cars will drive themselves across the country. Forget all that. There was a time when it'd be like, hey, let's do a thing. And you could point to 6, 9, 12 months later in the future, Tesla would be like, oh, and we did that thing. And it would be a brilliant implementation. They will have thought about it caringly, and it would be done really well. And now the best they've got is we're just taking a bunch of stuff out of our cars. And it's like, oh, that's just a bit rubbish, really. Tom, what do you think of the theory? I'm no economist. What do you think of the theory that they've released 2 mediocre vehicles at not much less money than a premium to psychologically nudge you into going for the next one up? So you go, oh, I might get a Tesla. You look at the base model and you go, oh, 3 or 4 grand more. I could get like the premium version. Would that nudge you, Tom, into going, oh, I won't go the base spec. I'll go the next one up.
Yeah, well, there's definitely like psychological studies to that in marketing. Yeah, I mean, God, when I had my restaurant, we had packages for catering, and I always made the most expensive one ridiculous and the lowest one ridiculous, so people would focus in the middle, and the ones that I actually wanted to sell. But I don't know if that's why they're doing this, Martin. I think it will have that effect, but I don't think that's their primary reason for offering these lower models. But I do think that will have that effect. People will look at it and say, oh, it might bring people to the brand to say, well, oh, wow, look, the Tesla only starts at 36,000 or whatever, and then look at it and say, well, maybe I could squeeze another few thousand and I can get autopilot, and I could. It also has this and it has that and it does this, and yeah, my monthly payment's going to be $75 a month more, but you know what? I could swing that, and the car is really nice. They got hooked on the cheap one. It looks nice. And now they can squeeze a few dollars more. So it might have that effect, but I don't know if that's why they did it. Maybe so they could have that advertising, starts at, 3 whatever, and bring people in and do it. It'll be interesting to see if after time they drop the cheap models. Like Tesla's done that in the past many times, drop the cheapest version of the model and say, well, nobody wants it, and in this case, it might actually be true. Yeah. In the past, I don't know if it necessarily was true when they dropped their least expensive model and they said, well, nobody wanted it. But for now, it'll be interesting to see. I wish they'd break down by sales, but they're not going to do that. So we could see how many are going to sell. But I think it'll have that effect, Martin. But back to your question, but I don't think that's why they're doing this.
I was listening to the head of Hyundai Europe last week, actually, and he was saying, Xavier Martinet, he was saying that they're really strong, Hyundai in Europe, on B2C, but they've got work to do on B2B. And it reminded me, actually, when the Tesla news this week, is this a B2B play? Are they looking at fleets and companies that are buying these to lease on to Uber drivers and stuff like that, just to give an option that is the cheap option? But totally get the criticism online. Not that cheap. This is not a $30,000 Tesla with slower charging, okay range, manual door mirrors. And if it's a 29K Model 3 up against a 29K Bolt at the same time, that's fine. But it's a big price difference. So I don't know. Maybe it's a fleet play, or I don't know. I don't know if about the car industry personally to know if it's an obvious sell to fleets. But a quick look at the competitors: Hyundai Ioniq 5 SE, rear-wheel drive, standard range. Big difference actually on the Model Y. 76 miles in favor of the Model Y. Like I said, Tesla engineering is really good. Right. But price difference as well. Ioniq 5, was it $5,000 less, Dom?
That sounds
$5,030
less, but and it's got less range, but not so much less range that you're going to notice that unless you're on a road trip. And then if you are, the Ioniq 5 charges like a lot faster, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Good platform, really good platform. Equinox starts at $34,995, including destination base LT1 trim. Is GM's best offer at the moment. 319 miles EPA. It does have lane keep assist, by the way. Mustang Mach-E, select trim, rear-wheel drive, standard range, is cheaper than the Model Y. So you're paying less for it. It has 260 miles of range. Takes a while to recharge. Only has 150 kilowatts maximum on that car of charging power. But it has a 360 camera, great screens inside, wireless Android Auto CarPlay, adaptive cruise with lane censoring.
Lane censoring.
So, it's a competitive. The world now is different to the world when Tesla could do some stuff and just, know they'll find buyers. They might struggle.
Tom, so you're an Equinox owner, and you've been in the Model Y. What do you think, standard or Equinox EV? Which would you go?
That's a good question. That's a really good question, and for me personally,
it's pretty close. But
it
it's
really is.
taking a while
I'd have to think about it. Without FSD, I'd probably do the Equinox.
Okay.
I think it's more comfortable. The Equinox is quieter. It's not as good of a driver's car as the Model Y. I'll tell you that for sure.
Sure.
But I have other vehicles for when I want to have a nice spirited drive. But the vehicle itself, it costs less. It's got pretty much the same amount of room. The Y might have a little more interior room, but the specs, the outside specs of the vehicles are almost identical. The Y and the Equinox. So I think I'd stick with the Equinox, to be honest with you.
Wow. So
Creda on Twitch saying Mach-E charging same as the Bolt, which you were just saying was fine for a cheap car, and now you're saying it's not quick enough. Yeah, but the Bolt isn't that. The Mach-E isn't that cheap, but I know what you mean. Yeah, so depends what you use a car for. I totally get it.
With the Mach-E, you kind of expect it to have a bit better charging out of the box, but it's better than it was.
Yeah,
Ford improved it.
Well, we talk about expensive cars sometimes, or Chinese cars, and people say, either I can't afford it or I can't get it in this country. Well, there you go. Two big stories this week of affordable electric cars. Let's get into what we've been doing in the last couple of weeks. And Tom, we missed you recently on the podcast. We can now say that you were in Bogota, Colombia. They let you back in the country. We're happy to see you here this morning. A couple of short videos about a lot of EVs in Bogota and a combustion vehicle ban boosting EV adoption. How was your trip? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I had a really good time. Bogota's a nice city, interesting city. One thing that I was really interested in was there's very few people that speak English. And, I travel to a lot of countries, and I almost always can find a number of people that can assist with English, almost everywhere I go, even in China. And it just seemed like very few people, even at the hotel, stayed at a really nice hotel. And even the people at the front desk had struggled to understand what I was asking them. So that was one thing that I thought was interesting. But the other thing was, what I found really interesting was how many EVs were in Bogota. It was crazy. Standing on the street, you couldn't stand there for more than a couple of minutes without an EV driving by. And a lot of Chinese electric vehicles. If you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on the screen. I was driving around in a Bestoon Nat, which stands for next. Yeah, Bestoon, made by FAW. Stands for Next Automated Taxi. And there's a lot of them. There's a BYD Seagull on the screen now. Ton of those. Zeekr. There was a Zeekr showroom right across the street from me. BMW i3s I saw. Bunch of Volvos, C40s, also EX30s. But BYDs were everywhere. I mean,
right.
And if you're watching also, you'll notice here, the DC fast chargers
and
that
also
I went to had all three connectors options, CCS1, CCS2, and GBT, because the vehicles there have all different connectors, and everybody's got adapters, so you could use any of them. There was the CCS1 to CCS2 adapters, GBT to CCS2 adapters. So people were having their DC fast charge adapters. So if they pulled up and someone was using the connector that their vehicle was native to, they could use the other connector. So
this
cool.
is kind of cool too, right? So you were talking about the different connectors, and you're standing in front of two BYD Seagulls charging. one has CCS2 and one has CCS1. What?
No, they both have CCS two.
I see
But
adapter. Ah,
but because that's what threw me at first when I went there, and that's a natural gas. There were natural gas taxis there too.
right.
When I pulled up, I'm looking, and one of the cars was charging from CCS one, and one of the cars was charging from CCS two. And I didn't walk around and look at their connector or whatever. There were people in the cars, and I'm like, like, do they actually make cars? Does BYD make cars and ship them here with both connectors? So then when the guy got out of his car to unplug, I noticed he had an adapter. I'm like, oh, that's what he's doing. So yeah, but I was surprised how many EVs were down there, and tons of Chinese EVs, the Zeekrs, and I saw the Zeekr X is really cool. The 7X, the 001 was really, really nice, like the shooting brake.
Yeah, 001. That thing's just got a big refresh in China. It's
Yeah.
like up to 900 volts now and 12C charging.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I wasn't able to check one out on the road, only in the showroom, in the Zeekr showroom. I was hoping I'd see one on the road somewhere, and I'd try to talk to the person. But I actually did stop and talk to a lot of people, the ones that could talk to me. And the interesting thing is they have something down there they call Pico y Plaza, which is a policy that they enacted recently, where to combat congestion and also smog, air pollution. And on certain days, they've been changing the rules, but the way it is now, I believe, if you have an odd number license plate, on odd number days, you can't drive in the city during the rush hours, early rush hour, morning rush hour, and evening rush hour, and also not on Sundays or holidays. But EVs are exempt from that. So people were buying EVs just to get around the fact that they weren't allowed to drive during these times. And then after getting the EV for a little while, they're like, this thing's fantastic. I'm never going to buy a gas car again. The one taxi driver that was driving me around was a woman. And she said this, she was like, I was so mad that like I had to get this, or I didn't think it was going to be something I enjoyed. But oh my God, it's fantastic. I charge at home, and she charges at 120 at home. And we were talking about that. She's saving up to do the upgrade to charge at 240 at home. And she's like, I'm making it work now with the 120. I have it plugged in every moment that I'm home, and but she's like, this is fantastic. I'm never going to buy a gas car again. So, that's interesting. Just as we all know this, and I'm sure the people in the comments know, if you get seat time in an EV, if you live with one for a little while, most people don't want to go back to combustion. So it's a matter of getting people exposure to them.
This combustion ban is really similar to what China did as well, right? Because they had super bad air pollution. So they had like that license plate, even odd thing, you can't drive your EV. I think you couldn't drive at all in some cities, on certain days with your, depending on your license plate, but in the EVs could. So that gives you, like you said, just motivation, incentive to go out and buy one. And even if you don't like it. But also, you mentioned in Bogota, there's not a whole lot of fast charging infrastructure. So
yeah.
What do people do?
There was only like 3 fast charging sites that I could find in the whole city.
Right.
They charge at home, though.
And low power ones too, right?
What? Yeah. They're maxed out at like 40 to 50 kilowatt. And
wow.
Yeah. So there was one that was an 80 kilowatt charger, but the people that were telling me that it will only deliver 40 kilowatts. I don't know if it's set because of the power that the supply is. The charger itself would be capable of delivering 80 kilowatts, but it couldn't the way it was set up. So yeah, but there are people that do, fast charge. There's just not a lot of them out there. But so many of the people told me that they just charge at home.
That's, it must be fascinating because you come to Europe quite a lot. You've not been to China in a while, Tom, but it must be fascinating to go somewhere new and see how they're going EV.
Yeah. That was because honestly, I did not expect that many electric vehicles. I was flabbergasted because I was standing on the corner and just watching, and I'm like, oh, there's this and there's that, and then they just kept coming, and I'm like, really? I didn't expect, because I mostly thought that, and I didn't do a lot of research on this, to be honest with you. I mostly thought that the infrastructure would prevent it, that their electricity the power that was available wasn't going to allow it. I know a lot of countries have problems with that. They just their grid's down frequently. They don't have high power, and I didn't think they'd be able to support it, but they're getting along just fine. Nobody seems to complain at all about not being able to charge. And the funny thing is, the fact that there wasn't a lot of DC fast chargers, nobody complained about that. I think it's almost like they didn't expect there to be. There were level 2 chargers, public level 2 chargers around.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and NL is there, NLX, that bailed on us here in North
Right.
America, but they're
Italian
there with
company.
public charging infrastructure. They didn't leave Bogota. They hightailed it out of the U.S. and Canada.
They're still there.
But they're like, yeah, we'll stay in Bogota.
Yeah,
And no
wow.
Teslas in Colombia.
No. They're available there. Tesla, I believe,
really?
like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, got a license there. And I think they even have a store, I think. But I watched and I didn't see any, not a single Tesla. And I saw hundreds and hundreds of electric vehicles, but I didn't see a single Tesla.
Fascinating. And that's Bogota, Colombia. And
Yeah.
Amazing. Now, we want to get onto a couple of things that we've been up to as well. Tom, when you were here a couple of weeks ago, we played a short bit of a 30x time lapse. A few weeks ago, before the tax credit expired, you helped out an elderly gentleman. He's a veteran from your area. He decided to buy a Tesla, but he owns 2 properties, had to pick it up in Florida because of registration. So you helped him come back with full self-driving. You told us about some of the incidents, but I'm not sure you ever told us about the final conclusion, 1,100 miles. Anything we didn't wrap up after that video now that it's published?
Yeah, so I don't even remember what we talked about, so I'll just talk quickly about what happened. So yeah, flew down to Orlando, Florida, picked up a new Tesla Model Y with a friend of mine. He's 83 years old, and he was uncomfortable, as you can imagine, getting his first electric car and then driving at 1,100 miles back to New Jersey. So I said, look, I'll go down with you. I'll drive it back. I'll make a video out of it. So that way, I'll get something out of it too. And that's what we did. 1,100 miles FSD the whole way. It made like 3 minor mistakes, and none of them were like critical mistakes where we would have, safety was involved. They were turning into the wrong parking lot. Once it turned, there were navigation mistakes. Once it turned down a dead end road and just kind of stopped and was like disconnected. So it was FSD is amazing how well it works. To literally sit in a car in Orlando, Florida, and say, "Take me to Chester, New Jersey," and it's like bloop, turns on and starts going, puts the blinker on, goes out. It had problems in parking lots. And this was before FSD 14.1. This was 13.9 point something. They released that next version like the day after we did this drive. But it was amazing to me. You can't really talk. It's hard to criticize how great FSD has gotten to this point. I mean, I've driven it so many times through all its different iterations. In the beginning, a year or so ago, I would never have done this. I wouldn't even thought of doing this, but maybe a year and a half ago, but it's gotten so good now that it's amazing. Took me the whole way. That said, I still am the position that I've had all along. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. I'm not buying it until I can sit in the car, tell it to take me somewhere, and close my eyes and rest. That's just my position. And if I have to pay $15,000 at that time because it's going to cost more, I'll pay it. To me, where we are today, I'm happy with Blue Cruise and Super Cruise, what it can do for me on the highway. That's all I want it to do. I wouldn't use this in my everyday life driving places. I still enjoy driving. Maybe when I'm really tired, I would. Maybe, at night coming home, I'd turn it on and monitor. But, as fantastic as it is, and the damn thing drove me 1,100 miles without really having to have any emergency interventions. Think about that. That's crazy. I still don't need this in my life, but people do. like Dish, he's been using it now for a couple of weeks around. He uses it constantly. He uses FACD
Oh, really?
for everything.
Really?
And yeah, he drives him around town and everything.
No
Every time
way.
he gets in the car, he says, "Take me to ShopRite." Go
Yeah.
here, go there. He uses it for everything. He's gotten he initially got like 3 strikes. I got 1 strike on the drive home, where it turned off, but mostly because I was trying to show him everything and I was trying to use the nav system. So, but now he's getting good. He's not getting strikes anymore. He's learning to look forward. When it's new and you're trying to learn everything and you have FSD on, you're not being as attentive as you should be. It's amazing. Martin, it's amazing. 1,100 miles with the car just driving.
Yeah, it's so good. And so in terms of the concentration, it's safety as well. Your gentleman friends, an octogenarian, and all of us, our powers get weaker as we age, and it just gives you that spare capacity that, so he can be fully on the ball when he needs to be, but doesn't have to be, completely driving the car. I think it's brilliant technology for those as well. That, as you say, when it's complete, it opens up mobility for those that have, visibility issues or anything like that. It's going to be incredible technology. Before, you had some amazing access with Electrify America. We're going to get to that, but one more Tesla thing. So stay tuned, because Tom's had some fantastic access with EA. But Dom, finishing off our Tesla stories this week, you had some time in the new Model Y, but boy, did it cost you to get in one, with some Tesla drama and a service visit. No video up yet on your channel, but how did it go?
It could have been better. My first Tesla service experience after 2.5 years of ownership. I'm getting ready to sell the car, probably next week. But it wasn't feeling right. I thought the control arms were gone bad because it was at 60-some thousand miles. I heard some squeaking going over bumps, and that's a common sign. But then it went away. So in my mind, I thought, oh no, it's getting worse. So apparently it wasn't that at all. So I took it to Tesla. They booked me an appointment, which was fine. But then they pushed the appointment back at one point, which was not great because I don't have a whole lot of time to play with here. So that kind of sucked. And then I brought the car in, and they couldn't. They didn't feel anything wrong with this front suspension, which, I drive the car a fair amount. I've driven it for 2 years. I know something's gone wrong with it, right? So it wasn't the control arms. And the other thing they fixed was it had a clicking sound of the half shafts in the back, where you hit the accelerator or take off the accelerator, it would like click click. So they just need to repack that with grease and take it away, and that worked. But it was like $1 worth of grease and like $400 and some to apply it, apparently. And then so I brought it in, and we didn't think there was anything else wrong with it. After they drove the car, there's no issues. So it would only take like an hour to fix. So they wouldn't give me a loaner. I had a place I needed to be. I thought I was going to be able to, just drop it off, pick up a car, and get out of there. But, they wouldn't give me a loaner until they actually looked over the car, and then they realized, there are some issues. So then I got they send you an estimate of, a re-estimate after they've gone over the car. And it was like a lot higher. Instead of like $400 and some, it was like $4,000 basically, because they added on 4 tires, which was like $1,800 for tires, which I didn't get them because I'm about to sell the car. And I went to CarMax actually and asked them, should I get new tires for my car that I'm about to sell? They said, no, don't do that. So saved it. And I'm not going to pay $1,800 for 4 tires without wheels. Anyway, so the other issue was the lower lateral links and lower compliance link assemblies. They had to be changed. So it was an extra $1,500. So $1,585, so $1,600. So then that came back, and then they gave me a car finally because it would take all day basically to fix. And, but still, like, how much was it? It was a lot of money. It was like $1,800. Yeah. Or $1,585, right, for the lower compliance link assemblies and lower lateral links. But, I didn't want to sell the car when I knew it was, there was something wrong with it, right? And they couldn't feel it.
Most people would, Dom. So most people would have just got shot
I
of the
mean,
thing. So
it,
yeah, but
it,
that's you. So
yeah.
well done, thank you. Yeah,
I mean,
that's
yeah.
safe. It's safe, but
So it was a frustrating experience, but it's over with now, and yeah,
well, and you
it was
got the Model Y for a little period of
it's true,
time.
and
The
it was my
previous
first
gen, this
time.
previous gen Model Y.
They gave me a previous gen, which was kind of a bummer, right? The Model Y, and then it comes around and it's like not the new Model Y, it's the old Model Y. But I hadn't driven one before. I've ridden in them a few times, and I didn't have a really good impression of it. So I finally got to drive one, and it wasn't as bad. I mean, it was a 2023. It was a lemon law buyback or something like that too. It had a little sticker on the door jamb, but it was fine. It was a bit noisy in the back. There's some squeaking over some bumps, a little tiny bit, but not terrible. Overall, it was fine. It was better than I expected, actually. And I don't hate the Model Y like I thought I did. And then I'm sure the new one's even that much better. So that was good to have that experience.
Oh, cool. And when do we talk about your plans? Are you here next week?
I am here next week. Next week is, so I am leaving the country for an extended period of time. I guess I'm going to be like a digital nomad of sorts.
Not because law enforcement are after you. I must point that out.
Yeah, no, not that I know of anyway. No, yeah, I'm going to be just traveling. Going to start in Italy. I'm going to start in this little town called Belmonte, Calabria, where my great grandfather emigrated from in the 1880s, I believe. And and it's a really cool looking town. It's like on a hilltop overlooking like the ocean, kind of in the south, just below, just above the line for Calabria, by Amalfi. No, not Amalfi. There's if you look out over the from the, you can see in the distance there's like a volcano island, and it's Stromboli, like the which is anyway. So I'm going to start there, spend a few weeks in Sicily, and then I eventually end up in Phu Quoc, Vietnam, for the first little stint. That's the Vietnam part of Vietnam that's in the Gulf of Thailand, as opposed to the other side, the South China Sea side. So it's just Urban is saying, Dom, visit Slovenia. You won't be disappointed. We're looking at Europe, and definitely Slovenia is on my radar, because the idea is to not spend money, somehow, save money, and by not having a car and car insurance and all that kind of stuff. But also, stay where it's warm and stay where it's affordable. And Slovenia is one of the more affordable European countries, and I really kind of hope to spend some time there next summer. But that's enough about me.
Well, that's. But people have been asking. People want to know what's going on with you. And then finally, Tom, you've got to fill us in on this access that you got at Electrify America. You sent us a little clip here. We can play this in. What's been going on?
So this week I went down to Ashton, Virginia. Electrify America's brand new center of excellence testing labs. They used to be right outside of Reston. I visited Electrify America down there a few years ago, and this time I got a chance to speak with Mike Buff, who's the Director of Product and Program Management, and Ken Tennyson, who's the Senior Director of Quality. Sat down with them for a 45-minute interview.
Wow.
After touring their facilities, checking out all their equipment, I can tell you for sure their new state-of-the-art, testing labs and so forth, center of excellence, is worlds better and more advanced than what their original center was, which was basically one room with four or five chargers set up. They have 30-something chargers now. Every single piece of equipment or charger that they've ever used is represented in there, even the oldest ones, so they can do validation and testing on them. They have an environmental chamber where they can put the chargers and the cabinets into, and it can go from negative 40°C up to 50, and test for extreme cold weather and extreme heat, which, if you guys remember when they launched their Gen 4 chargers, their latest chargers, initially, the first time it got down to like negative 20 degrees, they had a software problem. That was fixed in I think it was fixed in 48 hours. I think Electrify America told me. But there's a lasting, sentiment about it that, oh, the
Yeah.
chargers don't work when they're cold, but they're like, we fixed that in 2 days. It was done. It was a software glitch on the new chargers. But now with the environmental chamber, if they do have new equipment, they can test it before it goes out in the field. Instead of relying on their supplier to do the testing, they can do it now, and they can test all different cars at the facility. And they have this replicator, supposedly, that they can test even cars that they don't have there, to see if there's any type of validation problem or communication error with like cars that no longer exist. That you can't go buy a BMW i3, or BMW can't give them an i3 because they don't sell it anymore. They can download the i3 specs and all the stuff and then replicate it, supposedly, so they can correct a charging error with it. So interesting stuff that they have there. So 40 minutes of me, hammering them on I don't want to say hammering them, asking them questions about reliability, station uptime, transition to NACS, adapters, third-party suppliers like Alpatronic chargers, which they're started to use in 2 pilots. What does the company do once the fourth cycle of the consent decree is over, which is the end of 2026? Do you sell the company? Do you continue to expand it, or do you just rest on what it is? Like, you're going to continue to invest in it. Pretty much everything that I could think of, we covered it's like a 40 or 42 minute interview. I'm still chopping that up. I'm hoping to publish it today. I want to get this out before this weekend. So chances are I am going to publish it today. But there were, it's taken me a little while because there's things that I recorded in their Center of Excellence labs that they don't want me to show.
Fair enough.
So I have to edit out some things. I have to blur some things. So that takes me a while, that type of editing, when you got to blur things, especially when you're moving. I don't have AI software that I can point to something and then just keep it blurred. I have to like physically keep blurring as I move, So like I said, one of these days I have to upgrade my editing skills. But, so I should have that out later today. It should be an interesting video. It's the first time I had the chance to go back there since before COVID. And I've asked Electrify America a number of times to please let me come down there again. And it is one thing as interest of note, I was the first journalist that they allowed in this new Center of Excellence lab. Nobody's been in there yet. And that it was a good walkthrough. We were able to cover pretty much everything. There's nothing that they told me you can't ask us. They did say, if you ask us something we don't want to talk about, we won't give you a good answer. But there were no parameters, is what I'm saying, set on it. So I should have that up.
You said you didn't hammer them, but we do hammer companies, rightfully so. It's not okay to hammer individuals who work within a company, but we must always remember that behind the companies, and I think I've been pretty hard on Tesla this week with their lower cost products. I don't think they're fantastic things to release. But behind all of those decisions, and we do hammer companies, are real, women and men, real people doing their best every day in most cases. What was your sense of the people that work there? Do they get that they've had a rough reputation over the years, that there's no love lost in some of their people who have had failed charges and things like that? What's the sense of, were they defensive, or how were they?
Yeah, so I mean, the people that I dealt with specifically were great. And as we walked around, it was funny that you mentioned this. I talked to them about what I perceived as maybe the shortcomings on how Electrify America, not the individual, how the company could have handled things better. The funny thing is, and this was all off camera, it would have been great if I could have recorded, but obviously I couldn't. At times I was lecturing them, and I had to take a step back and say, look, I know this is like, unsolicited advice, but I've been waiting 5 years to come down and talk to you guys. The last time I talked to you was with, Giovanni and Brendan, and they're no longer in. Giovanni's still with Volkswagen. Brendan moved on, and Cliff was the chief technology officer. He's no longer there. I said, so I've got a lot of pent up questions and everything. I said, but in my opinion, I'm not putting this on your shoulders, the people I'm talking to right here. I think Electrify America has done a very poor job at telling their story and about engaging with people and explaining what the issue was when there was an issue, and look, we're working on it. And I think that's led to people having a sour opinion of the company. The Electrify America is not as bad as people portray it. And we all see online, they get the crap beat out of them. Ayana is everybody's sweetheart today, and rightfully so. They're doing a lot of things really well, but there's almost no criticism of Ayana whatsoever, and people just shit on Electrify America all the time. And honestly, I drive now and use Electrify America a lot. It's way better than it used to be. There's still shortcomings. Their old sites still stink. The site nearest me only has 3 chargers. I asked them about that. Why don't you put in more chargers? You can't have sites out there with 3 chargers. And they have a good answer for that, which you'll see in the video. I also, if you want to, I don't want to call it hammered them, but press them on plug-in charge and said, how come we can't have? Why can't I get my price plus planning when I use plug-in charge with my Ford F-150 Lightning? And the answer was, well, technology, this and that. I followed up with saying, listen, it's been 3.5 years that I've had my Lightning. I was promised this back when I got it, that you guys were going to work this out within a month. And it's 3.5 years later. I still have to disable plug-in charge every time I go into a EA station with my Lightning, or I pay 25% more. How can you not have that ironed out? There's a lot of topics we cover, but overall, I think that, I don't know if you want to call it the stench of the initial problems is still on their clothing. And I don't think Electrify America has done the right things to cleanse themselves of that and say, look, we're a different company than what we were when we first launched. And look at what we're doing now. And I think that hurts them. The Electrify overall, the network is pretty damn good right now. And there's this perception that it's not. And I think that's unwarranted.
James in the comments is at an EA charger right now with his Lightning charging, and it says it's a very nice station. Just throwing that out there.
So I noticed No Penguins, No Mayo said, wonder if they use free charging. Those free charge. I didn't bring up free charging. And the funny thing is, that is one thing that I won't say the only thing, but right before we were discussing the interview, they're like, are you going to ask us about the free charging? I'm like, well, you probably know that I've been adamant about it. And they're like, yeah, we know your position on free charging. So my answer to them was, no, I'm not going to bring it up. And they were kind of surprised that I didn't. I think it seemed like they were. And I said, to be honest with you, I don't blame you. I don't blame Electrify America for the free charging programs. I blame the OEMs. They're the ones buying it from Electrify America. Electrify America is there to sell electricity and make money. They have to be sustainable to keep going. If an OEM comes to them and says, look, we want to give you, I don't know, $300 for every vehicle we sell to give to prepay for their charging for 3 years, then Electrify America would be fools not to take that money. It's a huge cash cow for them. So I don't blame Electrify America. I blame the companies that are buying those free charging, which have been much less now. They're almost non-existent, the free charging programs. The companies have finally realized that's not the right way to incentivize buying electric vehicles, giving these free unlimited programs. And the ones that are free are very short. So I think we're seeing the end of that push to offer the free unlimited charging. So I didn't talk about that in the interview. So if you're looking for that, you're not going to get it, because I don't blame the network for that.
That's just business, basically.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to let you go to actually go make that video. I think we all want to watch that video. I'm certainly very curious, and I can't even use the network.
Martin, one last thing before, and then I'm going to have some content about Lucid Gravity. Lucid.
Great.
I've been driving a Lucid Gravity now for a few days.
Yeah.
So I have some. I did a range test, which has a surprising result. I don't want to give it away, but you definitely want to stay to the very end of that video. And I've also charged it now from 0 to 100% on a Tesla supercharger, an Iona 400 kilowatt Alpatronic unit, an EVgo 350 kilowatt charger, and Kyle charged it on a 400 kilowatt ChargePoint charger, and he was kind enough to share the data with me. We share data with each other. So I'm going to put out a video comparing the 4 charging sessions, 0 to 100% on all 4 of those high-powered chargers to analyze, the different charging profiles and everything. Surprisingly, even on the Tesla supercharger, which isn't a true V4. I did charge it on the V3.5 or whatever, but that wouldn't make much of a difference between that and a regular Tesla V3 supercharger, or it would probably make no difference. But surprisingly, if you're there for a long charging period, the results are about the same. Even though they're pulling so much more power from the other chargers up front, what happens is the vehicle gets hot, so it slows its charging rate down. If you're plugging a Tesla supercharger and it chugs along at 220 kilowatts, it can keep going. So there isn't that big of a difference if you're doing a very long charging session. Obviously, if you're going to plug in for 10 minutes on a road trip, which most people do, 10 or 15 minutes and move on, you want to be at a 400 kilowatt charger. It pulls 400 kilowatts for a while. And God, does it pull those kilowatt hour? And man, if you plug in at a low state of charge, that thing just rips. I mean, you see 400 kilowatt for a little while. I mean, it adds, I don't want to say how many miles per minute right now, but it rips. It rips. So I'm going to have some interesting Lucid Gravity content coming up. But I will say they're coming to take the vehicle back from me earlier than what was planned. Because I don't know if it was my too many sprint launches with the vehicle, but the rear drive unit has developed an issue.
Oh, okay.
So so it's a very early build, but to be completely transparent, that was that. So I did a 70 mile an hour highway range test with this vehicle, and I was going to follow it up with an 80 mile an hour range test, and I'm not doing that now because the issue most likely would affect the range test. So why do that if it's not going to be right?
Well, you've saved yourself some hours there, but yeah, no, it's good stuff. Talking about early builds, a quick thing I saw this week will be interesting to our audience. RJ Scarin's talking a lot lately. Been on the Verge's Decoder podcast, and he's on a, if he can't be a cheerleader for the company, then who can? So it would be expected. But RJ saying that the current non-saleable validation builds, they've got loads of them on the roads now, and that Rivian's plan to get some very early saleable builds is still on track for early 2026, which is amazing news for R2. R2 is coming, and that's a lot of our audience are excited about R2 and R3 eventually. But we'll get into that another time. I think, Tom, you're missing next week on the podcast because you're on your travels again. Then I think, Dom, the week after, you're on your travels, but either way should be good. And then if you get a chance to go to Out of Specs channels, go and congratulate the team there on 300,000 subscribers for Out of Spec reviews. As someone who makes content for a wildly unpopular small podcast, and I know the effort it takes to do that, I can't imagine what it's taken for Kyle and the team to get to 300,000 subscribers on reviews. So go and congratulate the team. It's hard. It's big effort. Amazing content, which we get for free, and go and say well done to the team there. That's huge. So well done.
Kyle has a Lucid Sapphire this week at the track, and I think he's put down like a really good lap time with it, and he may be bringing back. Before he was doing a series called One Lap, where he'd take an EV and drive it like at 9/10 basically around the track, and I think he set a record with his Sapphire. So I'm kind of hoping he publishes that this week.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
oh,
okay.
he's still here.
It's been 299 for all of today, and I did check this morning, and I checked before we went live, and it's been set because all it says is 299. So it's probably like 299,999. So I thought I'd get in there now because people watch this show in a few days' time. Almost 400 live viewers this week as well, which is cool. It's been down a little bit. The general EV heat's been coming off a little bit. So yeah, to see a load of live viewers this week's been amazing. Thank you for that. It's cool.
Yeah. And I hear Kyle's going to give away a Lucid Sapphire to the 300,000th subscriber. So head over there now and subscribe to Out of Spec, and you might win the Sapphire.
He's such a generous guy, so generous. But that's awesome stuff.
I'm not sure.
Nervous laughter all around. That's amazing. Look, guys, thank you as always in the audience. We can't do it without you. Thank you for your comments. Keep it going all week long in the comment section. We love to see that and what's on your mind as well. We're here every Friday morning or afternoon where you are, where around the world. Dom, you'll be on my time zone really soon. We can't wait to see you over here in Europe when you are finally in Italy, and you'll be able to say goodbye on the podcast in your native tongue when you're there. But until then, hey Dom, say ciao.
Ciao.